welcome everybody to our 2025 forum. Thank you for joining us at our new time here at 12 noon. I really appreciate all of your indulgence in this time change. We're really excited today to have our city manager here as our guest speaker. And I will, for my part, now hand the meeting over to Lori, our chair for our forum. Lori?
Great, thank you. So welcome everybody. As was noted, this is a new time, so we're hoping that this noontime meeting opportunity allows for even more people to attend our forum meetings. We have some great speakers, great topics over the course of the year. And so be sure and come back for the next one and spread the word to your fellow compatriots that we have some really great programming. And today we have Gerry Beaudin. Welcome back, Gerry. And he's got a resume here on the city's website. I'm going to read really quickly and then turn it over to him. So Gerry was selected, as we all know, to serve as Pleasanton city manager in May of 2022. He's committed to the priorities of the council, leading the organization and creating an environment where Pleasanton's high quality of life is well preserved. Gerry brings close to 20 years of public management experience, including 4 years as the City of Pleasanton's Community Development Director, working on a wide range of projects, including Sunflower Hill at Irby Ranch, our project we're so proud of, the Workday Campus, and the legislative advocacy around housing. Prior to his appointment as city manager, he was the assistant city manager for the City of Alameda, where he worked on a financial plan, equity and inclusion initiatives, and climate-related adaptation and resilience efforts. Gerry holds a Bachelor of Arts with honors from Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, as well as a Master of Science in Planning from the University of Toronto. He is a graduate of the Senior Executives in State and Local Government program at Harvard University Kennedy School of Government and the Senior Executive Institute at the University of Virginia's Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service. He's also certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners and is a member of the International City Council Management Association. I want to just say welcome back, Gerry, from myself personally, from all of us at the Chamber. And I'm thrilled you're back. You bring a design aesthetic to your decision making and how you view the world that I truly appreciate. So the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori, and thanks everybody for taking the time to basically talk with me today. I hope it is a conversation. I've got a few things that I'd like to chat about. That was a long intro. Appreciate you just touching on some of those things. What I would like to say is that my time in Pleasanton as a community development director from 2015 to 2019 were just amazingly productive, and I think for me professionally rewarding years. And so I'm really happy to be back in Pleasanton as the city manager. It's coming up on 4 months. Appreciate the city council's support in bringing me back in this role. And I was asked today to talk about economic development priorities for the city. The city council has done a really great job of fleshing out a work plan and tasking staff with getting it done. So I'll touch on, I'll try and relate this back to that work plan as often as possible today, but I'll try and go beyond a typical kind of project rundown, because I think most folks know generally what's happening in our community. I did put together kind of a one-page outline that I think James is going to pull up, and appreciate the opportunity, James, and welcome to you as well. And we'll kind of jump right in. I had 3 larger topic areas today that I wanted to touch on. I called the first one bigger picture plan progress. There's relationships and finding and creating those kinds of shared opportunities and shared goals for success. And then I do have some projects and initiatives that tie some of these things together and get it done for the community, which is also really important. So I'll kind of run through this in chronological order. We may bounce around a little bit. Obviously, relationships factor into all of these things as we go. So most of you are well aware at this point in time, housing's always been an interesting topic in the community. With the latest regional housing need allocation, we have 5,965 units to plan for in our community. The City Council, the Planning Commission, the community, Chamber's also been involved. everyone's been working hard to identify sites in the community. I think it is critical to have a place for people to live who are working in our area, not just in our community, but in the Tri-Valley, in our region, and not just the folks who are in the corporate jobs, but folks who are doing all kinds of work in our community. And that's really what RENA is all about. We can argue about whether or not the numbers are too high, appropriate, but at the end of the day, we do need to have a place for people to live who are working in our area and creating this vibrant place where we're living. So we do not build housing. It'll be interesting. Our relationship with the state, I think, we have a complicated history going forward. I think it will be interesting to see how the state manages cities that are doing what I consider what we're doing our part. But if the market doesn't build the units, the state is talking about holding cities accountable for that. And we do not build housing on a regular basis. And if we do, it's smaller numbers, much smaller numbers than what have been assigned to us. And so, that relationship will be critical. But we do need to make progress in this area to continue to be a vibrant place to be. So housing, I think, is on my list as that kind of planned progress theme. Infrastructure is a big one for me coming in. We have so many, I'll call them opportunities here today, but you can easily flip the script and look at them as challenges. We've been working for years on Highway 84. That project is scheduled to be completed by 2024. Those modifications to that regional highway create a lot of opportunities for us locally. It takes a lot of pressure off of our surface streets, and it hopefully will allow people who are commuting through our region, through our community, or our area, to be able to bypass our surface streets. And I think that'll have a pretty significant impact on particularly our downtown and Sonol, First Street quality of life here, and that affects our downtown as well. We're collaborating on Valley Link, and we want to make sure that we're the end of the line for BART currently. That comes with pros and cons. It'll be great to have some parking relief and some of the additional. It'll be interesting to see how people treat the Valley Link extension, but I think that it will create new opportunities for us from a business and economic development perspective, because we will be more of a hub as people transition from one site to another. And if you're going to stop, then maybe you want to stay for the day from a business perspective. And so, hopefully that'll create an easier way for folks to get from beyond our region to our community. On the local level, we're an aging community. There's certainly an opportunity for us to invest in our infrastructure in ways that we maybe haven't had to in recent years. We'll talk a little bit separately about water, but city facilities, our pools, our parks, our roads, our sewers, our water system, the part that we control in terms of the distribution, all of these things need pretty significant investment over the coming years. And I think that shifting from a pay-go model to other forms of financing for these kinds of improvements will be are on the horizon for us, and will be essential to us maintaining the quality of life and keeping our business community, but also our residents satisfied with the level of service that they're getting from us at the local level. If you've been following our council meetings, water's a big deal. I've separated water from the drought. I'll talk about it separately. Whether or not we get in the water treatment business is something that we're going to explore a little more deeply. It's critical for everything that we do, whether it's your garden, Jan, or whether it's the businesses that are in the business park or other parts of our community. That we all need water to be able to be successful. And so having safe, clean drinking water is a priority for the city council. It's a priority for us as an organization and for the community. And so we just want to make sure that as we look at significantly investing in water treatment and groundwater harvesting or use that we're on the right path and creating something that's sustainable and manages risk and gives our ratepayers and water consumers a clean and high quality product. So I separated water from the drought. Obviously, climate change. We had a wildfire on the Hill in my first couple of months on the job. It's very real. The impacts, whether it's smoke, whether it's fire, whether it's drought. We've had some earthquakes shake the region in the last few days. We as an organization know how important it is for people to feel safe in their community, and we're doing everything that we can to move our programs, our policies, and our investments towards something that helps to start to change the trend lines around climate change. And at the same time, we're investing in emergency preparedness and making sure that we're creating a safe and secure environment, and we're doing the things that we need to do so that 20 years from now, people can actually walk around during the summer in Pleasanton and enjoy clean air and not melt into the pavement. So, I'll say sustainability is something that I see as a bigger picture plan progress theme. The City Council did adopt a climate action plan for us, and we are now moving into implementation for that plan. Things like EV charging and things like how we purchase equipment and what kind of equipment we buy. This is a lens that we're applying. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is also something that I think helps to create a really desirable place for the business community, for residents. People want to feel not just like there's diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that they belong here. And we will be bringing at the council's direction, we'll be bringing a program, a diversity, equity, and inclusion program to the council that will allow us to start to apply that lens to our, or at least in a more thoughtful way. I think we have been applying the lens. I think this will be more of a structured approach to applying the lens to how we run our programs, what we offer, who we offer it to, just how we do our work in general. So you'll see more of that coming soon. We'll have a scope of work over the council later this year, and we'll be kicking that off for the community. And then the thing that I don't have on the slide, but that you all should know is coming, is our general plan is a 2005 to 2025 general plan. So we'll be starting to talk about how we think about the future of our community, taking another look at that document more holistically. We've taken pieces of it over time with housing element, things like sustainability, but I think you'll hear from staff in the coming years that we'll need to be dusting off our general plan file and updating that document more comprehensively, and that'll be an opportunity for the community to think about where they want to be 20 years from now, from the time that we work on that. So I mentioned earlier, it really is a relationships game. We can't do any of it alone. We do a lot of it. We do a lot of the heavy lifting from a staff perspective, but having partnerships with the chamber, the school district, the county, businesses, the PDA, neighboring cities, neighborhood associations, it's just, the list goes on in terms of what we're trying to do. But what we're really trying to do is take those shared goals and translate them into accomplishments. And that's part of what I hope to be able to continue to bring to Pleasanton. I think we've been effective over the years from a staff perspective, from a leadership perspective, in building those relationships. And it's kind of one of those pillars that we all need as part of the program. And so I look forward to working with folks on the call, folks in the broader community, and folks in the room here today to be able to accomplish these priorities. I'll spend the last 15 minutes or so talking a little bit about projects and initiatives, because that's where the rubber meets the road for us all. Obviously I listed a few things on this slide. I think the Economic Vitality Committee is going to have a presentation tomorrow morning on the Stone Ridge Mall project and the framework that we have going on out there. But I'll try not to steal too much of our community development director's thunder here today. But essentially, we have 4 separate owners at the mall. The mall is in transition. There's already a a residential PUD application for 360 housing units right across the street from the 10X Genomics new campus facility. So just as you enter the mall, as you pass the fire station, that corner has a project that we are currently processing. It's about 60 units to the acre, including the density bonus application there. And it will be a little bit of a flavor for what is likely to come for the mall area. But without presupposing anything, the council did endorse us moving forward with a framework plan that we hope to have on the books around the same time that we move forward with the housing element approval. And the timing of that is important because what we have right now are 4 separate owners, all with separate interests. And what we're trying to do is, within the 70 or 75 acres in the donut hole of the mall area, if you can envision it from an aerial view, you've got Workday, 10X, Kaiser, and a lot of other businesses, fire station, residential community. Well, inside the ring road is the Stone Ridge Mall. And that's really where the focus of the framework plan is. And the idea is that by the time we get to an approval for the housing element, we'll have a good sense for how things will unfold, or at least an outline for how things will unfold in the hole in the donut as it currently stands. The mall will still be there. It's really just how do we knit in other uses over time, and how do we make sure that we take care of things like parking, possibly parking structures, parks. None of the 4 owners, or at least no one so far, has raised their hand and said, let us build all the parks. So we want to make sure that we can have a conversation about how that's going to successfully be accomplished. And again, before or very close to when we have the housing element approved, because as you also sitting around the table probably know, the state has essentially unlocked a lot of the development potential that comes with housing with very little local input, especially for sites that are in the housing element. So we want to make sure that we're as close to that housing element approval as possible to try and maintain some semblance of order as that new neighborhood creates itself through the market conditions that are out there. Downtown, we've certainly been making strategic investments along the way. We bought some property next to the Lions Wayside Luki Park. That site is, we're still considering how we're going to move forward with that property, but it did remove some commercial businesses from that area. The parking lot between Abbey and Burnell will be completed in the next month or 2. And we'll be having a ribbon cutting out there. There's a new park that comes with that. There's a new linear trail that comes with that. And so those, from a city perspective, we've kind of grabbed the situation and invested where we can along the way to make these kinds of strategic investments. We also have the Baroni site, the Soprano site, which Guy's involved with new residential and or mixed use projects being contemplated in the, it is complicated, but they're being contemplated in the downtown area. And so I think you'll continue to see an evolution for the downtown, whereas we're at the mall, we're hoping that we see a revolution. Downtown's going to be more of a slower walk towards change. I put Hacienda on the slide. Hacienda has been a really important partner over the years, whether it's recycled water projects, new investments and companies coming to our community. We're going to redo West Las Positas Boulevard, which is one of those main connectors. Yeah, people call it the roller coaster, but council has, as part of the work plan, authorized us to spend money on the design for that area. And then we'll get to construction as soon as we have a better sense for what we're going to do with the road itself. But in terms of Hacienda, James Paxton and the business community in Hacienda have been important partners with the city over the years, and we will continue to find ways to partner and really Hacienda ties in pretty tightly with our housing element efforts as well. A lot of property owners in that area have stepped forward and been a willing partner on the housing front, which I think helps to create that, that neighborhood, that hacienda approach to doing business, where we have people living there, we have people working there. There's all kinds of different commercial activity, and it really does create a unique marketing and business development opportunity for us. I'm going to spend the most time on the economic development zone. It's probably one of the projects that we've, it's been on the books since before I started as a community development director, as an effort that the city would undertake. So that means it predates 2015, and it certainly has, fits and starts. But we are now in a final run towards a kickoff for actual construction in that area. Obviously, the hotel project is under construction. My understanding is that as soon as this week, we will have construction starting on the roadway improvements. No one needs to quote me on that. Whether we actually get it out there this week or not. I would say that in the next couple of weeks, you will see construction mobilized in that area with the goal of completion fall winter 2023. And so what that means is we have a Costco application which is through the planning process. There's a design review that was approved last July for the Costco building. We'll see building permits for that project as soon as Costco wants to move through the building permit process, and then they'll get under construction out there. When I last spoke with them, they thought that it was less than a year to construct their site and their building improvements. So that means that things could align pretty neatly towards the end of the next calendar year. The hotel is under construction. Expect them to be complete as well next calendar year. Probably not. They will be done before the Costco project, I believe. So that is all really positive in terms of the things that are happening in that area. Certainly translates back to some of our bigger picture planned progress efforts. Our general fund, because of COVID, because of shift away from mall and brick and mortar kinds of retail, the mall has certainly not performed like it did in prior years. It's really important for us to find new ways to generate economic vitality in our community, which helps us to provide the services and the programs that the community expects of us at the city. It also helps us to do things like make capital improvements in the facilities. We have been a pay-go community, which means that we try and find ways to generate incoming funds to be able to reinvest them in the community. I do think our infrastructure needs will outpace the ability to pay-go in the coming years. But that doesn't mean that we don't still want to try and find ways to create incoming funds. And so we will be looking hard at the economic development zone to see if there are other improvements or other businesses that may be interested in that area as we move forward. And really, it's been from just a really personal perspective, and from the staff who've been working on the economic development zone for all this time, it really has been one of those well-vetted community engagement efforts over time. I mean, Bill's smiling. I wasn't going to make direct eye contact, but it's definitely been it's been a long road. It looks like it's coming closer to fruition, and I think I just want to shout out to the staff who've been involved. Pamela Ott was instrumental in the idea of the economic development zone. Steve Kirkpatrick's been working hard on it. So has Ellen Clark and her whole team. So I'll just I'll name drop a few folks back at the city for their work on that project. It'll be a really important project, hopefully a catalyst project for that area and its revitalization, and hopefully brings new attention, ease of getting in and out for everyone who's there already. I was going to conclude today with just an open invitation to folks. I've been trying to meet with as many people as I can in the community, in the business community, but also the broader community. Please do feel free to reach out to me if I haven't reached out to you already. You know, Lisa Tarnow back at the office, who helped Nelson for years, and who really has really been helping me keep my calendar organized. Is, you know, she will likely be the person who answers the phone, and I'm happy to meet with folks, talk about where your interests are, how we can work together, and I'll just wrap it up there. I'm happy to talk about projects that weren't on the list today. There are a lot of other great things happening in the community and the organization that I'd be happy to talk about, but also happy to dive deeper on some of these projects as well. So with that, I'll turn it back to James, or see if anyone has any questions for me.
I do, Gerry. I want to talk about water and specifically PFAS. I live downtown 48 years. I've been drinking the water unfiltered. I've fed my children and I feed my grandchildren this water. And thank the Lord, I'm very healthy. So I read the paper on PFAS and it seems very nebulous. You know, it may cause this, it may do that, it may do this and that. So it's shutting down wells for something that may be a problem. Would you speak to that, please?
I'll speak to it to the extent that I can. I'm not a chemist, and I won't even attempt to play one on TV. The PFAS is an issue around the world, and really there are parts of the country that are much harder hit than we are. But it almost doesn't matter how much there is. The EPA, Cal EPA, State Drinking Water, State Board, the Drinking Water Division have all identified it as a chemical of concern, and there is an acceptable level, and they have some new advisory levels. And so what we've talked about from a staff perspective is wanting to take the best available science at the time and these experts, and making sure that we are not putting the community in any danger, or we're not providing water that maybe isn't meeting current standards or expectations from those experts. So I think it's prudent for us to pause. It doesn't mean we can't turn the wells back on. It doesn't mean we can't treat it. We may even find that there's an acceptable level of PFAS, but in this exact moment, Zone 7 is having similar discussions. Cities and water companies around the country, water agencies around the country are all in the same boat, not wanting to provide something that might be harmful to residents at this time. So it doesn't mean that we're locked in on whatever option we pursue today. It just means we're gonna take a minute, figure out how to treat PFAS, and then move forward.
I have a question. How can we spend $4 million on the Century House? I don't understand this law. I mean, I know I've been meetings over at the Century House, and I like it. I like that we have it. I like, you know, I mean, the location is good. It's not, it's kind of separated from other places. But I'm trying to figure out how the heck you could spend $4 million renovating, and it's not. I understand from the newspaper, it's not historically correct in the way it is now. I mean, we have major things, but of course it wouldn't be very good for what it was intended. So,
Sure.
So I'm just trying to understand this. When we have so many really pressing needs here.
Yeah. So the Century House discussion happened as part of the midterm budget process. I think the conversation had started much earlier. It's been going on for quite some time. But I'll answer your question directly in a second, I promise. But the real issue is you're hitting the nail on the head. I would lump Century House into infrastructure. There's a program of needs that we need to put all in one place and then prioritize. And I think that in the meantime, we're taking things that we know have been long discussed or that need investment, and we're moving money towards them. And that's okay for where we are right now. And I think that the council is working with the information that they have at this time what I'd like to do as part of the next budget cycle, we have a brand new finance director, Susan Shea, who's joined us. We'll be working with our engineering team and with our operations team and with our finance team to put together that infrastructure plan, which will help to identify the needs and then help us prioritize where we invest. It is the Century House project. I think that there's value in maintaining things that are important to the community, and
$4 million.
well, but I think that's where the the council's working with the information that we have available at this time, and over time we will be able to reevaluate that list. It won't just be a one-time look at it.
Aren't we using some of our surplus to fund that? The reserves.
So there's a reserve and there's a rainy day fund. The rainy day fund was almost a capital set aside during COVID. So yes, some of those funds, and really that's where it comes down to how much capital set aside or capital in general, where are we using those dollars over time is going to become a much harder conversation as the needs are on the table.
Well, especially as the economic situation evolves over the next year or two.
Yes, yeah.
And the implications for taxes and revenues for the city.
Yeah, a lot of our conversations, there are scenarios that are done that show recessions and economic slowdowns, but our budget documents and our revenue projections, our just projections in generally didn't try to accommodate that, at least for the budget that we adopted 2 years ago. So we'll be presenting those options as well. You're right, though, it will get tighter.
Infrastructure, traditionally think of roads, water, sewer, energy, and so has there been a quantifiable number associated with the wants and needs, or is that something that the new director is going to be?
Yeah, that's what we're assembling. That's the work we're doing.
What scope are we looking at?
We will be looking at all city-owned and managed infrastructure.
No idea how much that might be, and the time frame to accomplish that.
We're going to do a 10-year infrastructure plan. That's the goal, to present a 10-year infrastructure plan as part of either as part of the budgeting process or in a parallel process, and then to be able to identify options, suggestions, recommendations for how to get that work done. And I don't want to guess today. I think it's going to be tens of millions of dollars, if not more.
I'm sure it is.
Any questions around the table? Online, anybody who's viewing virtually, anybody have a question for Gerry?
I have a question. It's Marty Indervitson. And
Marty.
Gerry,
Marty.
yeah, and Gerry, let me add my welcome to Lori's. I think you're going to be a great asset to Pleasanton, and looking forward to continuing to work with you. I have three questions. I'll just go through them. You can answer them as you like. On the Highway 84 issue, you talked about providing relief to local surface streets. I'm just wondering if the city has a traffic analysis that might tell us exactly how much relief, if any, we're going to get on the pass-through traffic on First Street. That's question number one. Number two, on the water issue, particularly PFAS, it strikes me that Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin all utilize and benefit from the groundwater basin. And so isn't that really a regional issue that ought to be having all the cities work together rather than independently on a well-by-well basis? And then third, there's probably no bigger issue for folks in this room than the general plan update. And I'm wondering if you have thought about and can share with us what you think the process will be for updating the general plan. In the past, including the distant past, I sat and chaired a couple of general plan review committees that occurred about every 10 years. And I'm just wondering if that's the kind of process you're thinking about. And I'll just take your answers. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Marty. So I'll go in order. Highway 84 traffic, that has been modeled. I don't have the data for it. I looked at it most recently in the context of the PUSD site, the property that's in the housing element, and in terms of how many trips might come off of that site relative to how many trips are already on First Street. But what I'll commit to you is I'll circle back with Mike Tasano, and I can share that information with you and with James, so you have that. The idea though is that the cut through traffic that we end up with for folks trying to get through the Tri-Valley, people often use they'll use Sinol first rather than sticking it out on 84, and it does create. The idea is that 84 will be a more desirable route because it'll be a little more efficient, and the folks will choose to avoid our surface streets. And I know that Mike has looked into this, so I'll give you that. PFAS, you're right. We're not looking at it on a well by well basis. Currently, the city of Pleasanton gets about 15 to 20% of our water supply from our groundwater wells. We do have an allocation which is a little unique. Others in our area are not pumping from wells. They're procuring all of their water from Zone 7, which is where we get 80% of our water. So we're in a little bit of a unique position because we do produce 20% of the water that is used here in Pleasanton when our wells are operating. The issue, and it all kind of ties back, this is no one's fault. This is just we have 3 wells. They're all kind of nearing the end of their useful life. So whether we had PFAS issues or not, we would be replacing, we need to do significant repair work and replacement work for the 3 wells that we have. When you add PFAS into the mix and we start talking about treatment, it does become its own, we become a water treatment agency, and it does come with its significant amount of new regulatory and risk for us, and cost. That's true, Jan. And so what we're looking at now is what are our options? Is a Zone 7 partnership? Is there a private partnership? Is there a we do it and we kind of go in knowing exactly what we're up to and kind of take the approach that we were on pace to accomplish? All those things are what we're going to look into over the next couple of months, and be back with City Council for options related to how we get clean, safe drinking water locally. And then the general plan update, I put it on the list as a bit of a teaser today. I hesitate to mention it out loud before we take care of Stone Ridge, East Pleasanton, the housing element. We've got some things we need to accomplish before we get to the general plan update. But certainly will be a robust community process. And a lot of cities, you put 20 years on the books, but you end up with 25 years or in some cases 30 years before you get your next general plan done. They're costing millions of dollars these days to do a complete general plan update in communities. So early days for that one. It's just, it is something that I think when we start to think about climate change, sustainability, new housing pressures, making sure we have a good balance of commercial, industrial, residential, just a good land use mix, it will be important for us to step back and take a look at that overall vision for our community around 2025.
But Marty.
Gerry, can I just interject one more thing? Just going back to the PFAS issue, and you may or may not know about this, but I represented Castlewood Country Club for many, many years, and Castlewood actually has the ability and does get a supply of water from the San Francisco Water District. That dates back to the Phoebe Apperson-Hearst days when Castlewood, was created, and they had a groundwater supply that San Francisco actually interrupted. But it might be worth looking into the relationship with Castlewood that the city has, and this Castlewood's relationship with the city and county of San Francisco, because the infrastructure does actually have the ability to route water from Sunol back to Pleasanton. So it's just something to think about.
Thank you.
Okay, Brad, I think you're next.
Yes, Gerry, as everyone, we'd like to welcome you back and sure you're going to be a great asset and move forward on a fast pace. And you've got a lot of work ahead of you, but you're up to the task.
Put your running shoes on.
Okay, two-part question regarding water. Number one is based on what you know and what you've been told on the subject of water reuse. Would reverse osmosis help mitigate the PFAS problem? And the second question deals with water quantity. We could be looking at another year of drought. And what is the city and Zone 7 doing, looking at a worst case basis if we have another year of drought? Thank you.
Sure. So we already have water reduction in place in Pleasanton and across the Tri-Valley in our partnership with Zone 7. So in terms of quantity, we're going to be managing demand as much as we possibly can. Zone 7 has, we're in discussions with them about providing the additional water that we will need them to provide while our wells are offline, if our wells do in fact go offline later this year or early next year. It may be sooner. We'll have a council conversation about that on September 20th, or at least start that conversation on that meeting date. And then in terms of reverse osmosis and PFAS, I'm gonna defer to the technical experts on that. There are a number of ways to treat PFAS. The way that we had selected, which is the carbon system, is the most, it's tried and true. There's also an ion exchange process, and it really depends. We're dealing with PFAS, but there's also chromium, arsenic, and other things in our water that we need to treat. So different treatment methods in combination or standalone are responsible for those different chemicals. And so we just need to, this is where the chemists and the water experts are going to have to take the lead for our recommendations from the staff side.
Thank you. Any other questions from our virtual viewers? Any more questions here around the table? Seeing none. Gerry, I think you have finished.
Survived.
I'm afraid to.
Lori, if you're online, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to you.
I think if anybody doesn't have any other questions or comments for the good of the order, we're ahead of schedule. I didn't have anything else on the agenda that I remember.
Okay, so then I do have one thing I'd like to do. So
Perfect.
This is one of the new things that we're doing with this committee is after we listen to our presentation, I do like to survey the committee and see if there are things that Gerry spoke of today. Which one or two possible items do you think we should spend a little time on in the coming weeks and months as an organization? I know there's a ton of them, there's a ton of priorities, but we're trying to think through. This committee is meant to be a first sort of pass on information that may wind up in our EDGAR committee and eventually be up to the board. So are there any things that were presented today that you think can be topics of importance?
I think what's happening at the mall is probably the most important
Housing in general.
So mall, housing, combined?
Housing in general, yeah. The distribution of housing around the city. I know the stoners people are worried that they're going to get the entire load. And James, in the past, I like the idea of everyone going around. I know most everybody here, but
We didn't do introductions.
we didn't do introductions. So I like introductions going around the table because often our presenters don't know everybody here.
We can do that. We can do that. Anything else on the elements that we covered today? Housing, Stone Ridge Mall, infrastructure generally, or is there? Well, there's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I'm most interested in roads and water and sewer and just the true infrastructure, the nuts and bolts. And
The city-owned infrastructure.
yeah, city-owned infrastructure.
Yeah, that's
And
their main
when you say $10 million,
responsibility.
I think it'll be a lot more than that.
Tens of millions is what was
Tens
said,
of
not to be
millions.
quoted, not to be quoted.
It's gonna be, it's a big deal.
Some kind of,
And some things just wear out and you have to replace
And
them every
that's
50
the
years.
main
You know.
focus of the city. is maintaining
And,
infrastructure.
How about,
Casitas Road.
how about our online folks? So what about the presentation that you heard today you think you'd like to hear us do some follow-up on? Anything? From anybody?
Let me suggest nothing happens without water.
Appreciate it.
Let me suggest,
Thank you.
there's no such thing as too much circulation.
Circulation.
There's no such thing as too much circulation.
So then the last thing I wanted to touch on, we have made a list of presentation topics based on our meeting back in July. So in August, we heard from Mike Desano with transportation. We heard from Gerry today on economic development. In October, we have James Paxson, who's going to come over and talk specifically about Hacienda. And then in December, we confirmed online robotics. November, we don't have a confirmed speaker. So thinking through what we've been talking about.
I'm thinking Pamela Ott does an amazing job, and we would love to have her, and she's always a wealth of information. That's just my personal push. Brad?
Water. Nothing happens without water.
Okay, Brad, we got it. Water.
Any other suggestions as a possible November topic?
You have James Paxson coming, don't you?
Yes, he's coming next time. Okay, Lori, I think then that would take us back to you again, and I think we are ready for adjourning.
Were we going to do the round of introductions?
Why don't you go ahead and take us around the room. Okay, let's go ahead and start here. Let's start across from you.
Hi, Steve Baker, Baker Financial Consulting. I'm on the Chamber Board and also the EBC Committee.
Nancy Harrington, Harrington Art Partnership.
Guy Houston, California World Advocacy Group, just a minute.
Yeah, nice. It was luckily ENT Networks, computer networking company. Hi, good morning, everybody. Bill Wheeler, Black Tie Transportation and member of the Chamber Board.
Kim Damiani with Summit Financial Group, and I'm chair of the board for the chamber.
Jan Batchelor, retired, former chamber chair.
Gerry Beaudin, city manager.
And of course, James Cooper, president of the chamber. And then on screen, Brad, you're first.
Brad Hurst, part of the aging infrastructure.
Irreplaceable.
There's 10 million right there.
Seema.
Hi, I'm Seema Chawla with Tech Valley Corporation. I'm also the chamber board member.
Thank you, Jamie.
Jamie Renton, Pleasanton Adult and Career Education.
Thank you, Charles.
Charles Crowhair, Uncle Credit Union. Thanks, everybody.
Pam.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Gerry. Pamela Ott, Acting Assistant City Manager for the City of Pleasanton.
Thank you, Janine.
Hi, everyone. Janine Rubino Brum, Pleasanton Unified Workability and Sunflower Hill.
Lori, again.
Lori Moffett-Felberg, Senior Principal with Dahlin Group Architecture Planning, and I'm also on the Chamber Board.
Jack.
Jack Balch, Balch Enterprises, and obviously City Council member.
Kathy.
Hi, Kathy Narum, City Council member.
You, Reed. Reed Phillips.
Owner of Beach Catering. Amazing woman.
Nick.
Nick Kurji, Primrose Schools of Pleasanton, board, chamber board.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you. And we had 6 others that were on earlier on. So to your point, Jan, we did have it on the early part of the agenda. We skipped past it, so we'll make sure we get that. So appreciate everybody's patience. Thank you again, Gerry, for coming through. Thanks to all of you for being patient with us through lunch. And Lori, I think that you're on again.
No, I think we're good. Everybody can enjoy the rest of their day. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
No, I think it's not much longer.
No, it's not. No,
Yeah.
it's good. This is the normal. Education.